Good evening and welcome to Slam the Gavel, the show that tells it all regarding family court, other court issues, as well as CPS. I'm your host, Marianne Petrie. I have a brand new guest. Her name is Lisa Breece Linke on. She's a mental health professional driven to help others overcome personal obstacles. She's a responsible self starter who communicates well and is dedicated to improving the well being of her clients. She's a team oriented behavioral specialist with a strong track record of establishing solid relationships with her clients, coworkers, and administration and local agencies. Successfully worked with a diverse client population in one-on-one and group setting. She's a skilled behavior specialist with an expertise on identification and management of mental illnesses. I welcome you to Slam the Gavel. And how did you begin all this?
Thank you, Marianne. Well, thank you for having me on your show. I value what you do and getting the word out there on the judicial corruption. But my venture started with a degree in human services, always wanting to go into a child psychology background because of what happened to me as a kid, but that's a whole nother story.
Mhm,
And so when I got into this venture, I started at San Diego Center for Children and worked with children that were basically put in residential care. And at the time, I was so naive. I'm thinking, okay, these children, I guess, belong here because their parents don't care. But I really see how it was all paperwork, a lot of hands on physical restraints. And that made me really kind of biased towards that. I'm thinking we should never have to put our hands on these children that are emotionally harmed anyway. But
mhm,
then with that, I went into behavior therapy to study that to more of the autism community. So I worked
mhm.
with families that put there, and then it just evolved. Always been in the classroom or working with children on the spectrum or with behavior issues, and with the family unit as
Mhm. I'm sure you saw a lot of disturbing things with, family units or, you know, I don't with parents if they were going through a divorce, maybe, telling you another parent would show up and then the parent wouldn't because they didn't tell the parent when to show up type of thing.
Sure. I mean, we've seen it all from children being neglected to the state withholding the children to the parent division. I mean, you see it all, and it's all ugly, evil malice.
Mhm. It's very vengeful. I don't know, when there should be, family counseling and the counselor thinks that the other parent is going to tell mom or dad when to show up, and they just don't,
Mm-mm, mm-mm.
you know? And, I don't know how maybe these counselors or these psychologists should be calling both parents and not relying because
Well,
they really don't know.
and that's the thing. There's such a lack of training in these facilities, even in the as becoming a child development counselor or social worker, even the GALs. They don't have child development background. So with that, and then this state always pushing the paperwork more so than the seriously the child's best interest. In these facilities, they teach a lot of hands-on proact restraint methods. So
Mhm,
their focus is more so on what they have to get done versus the child's mental health.
mhm,
So it's tragic.
mhm. And I'm sure in these places they have to document and take notes and, like nurses' notes. Keep a
Oh,
record of what they did, restraints, how long, and, taken off every 2 hours and all this, documentation, but, you know, in these places, I wonder even if they're documenting things right.
well, and that's the thing. I remember having to do all the paperwork at the end of my shifts, and we would allocate an hour to do all the paperwork. And when things happen, we'd have to fill it out as it went. But without that paperwork, the state's not getting their money. So,
Mhm,
as an employee, you have to do what your boss says. That paperwork is significant. I'm telling you, it's more important than the actual son or daughter in that facility. And I hate to say that, but I can attest from San Diego Center for Children, New Alternatives in San Diego, all of those places. And that was my experience in San Diego only. It could be different in different states, but um, it's not good.
Mm-mm. It seems like nothing is in the best interest of the child.
Even that phrase, and I forgive me if I go down a rabbit hole. That phrase I even try to encourage parents to stay clear of, because best interest of the child is legalese. The word child is legalese, and that automatically will put you into their jurisdiction. So best interest of the child is actually best interest of the state. And Michael Sayon, he's a mentor of mine. He studies constitutional and contract law. He schooled me on this, the origination from it.
Mhm. Oh, exactly. I've had him on several times on my podcast.
Great. Okay. Yes, he's
He
phenomenal. He's a
he's a
good man.
brain. He is so wise and smart. Uh,
Yes.
eh, yeah, it is in the best interest of the state. Um, it's really I can't believe it's all come to this.
Right. 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 Well, I mean, here's the thing. When Bill Clinton did that
Mhm,
bill back in the late 90s, we thought, oh, what, this is great. What a good man. No child left behind. Right. So that's when I think we started realizing, like, all the back, even child support was catching up. And even if parents had raised their son and daughters, their pay was still being docked years later. And then
mhm,
that was just a cover up for the human trafficking, all those babies and children, sons or daughters going missing in the 80s. I think it's 800,000 children missing. I don't even know. But it was all a cover up. So when things spiral so far out of control, and I can take even a biblical standpoint where scripture talks all about this, the fraud, the woe ye attorneys using all this craziness. It's
mhm.
dark, and I don't know how this is going to end, but we need a miracle.
Oh, exactly, because when you mentioned, the ASFA that the Clintons installed, that really was truly evil.
Yes.
I mean, okay, so sure, you have parents that probably don't care about their kids and don't wanna pay child support and don't care. Okay, you have that group, but then you have the group that is having child support thrust on them with an imputed income they can't ever afford, that a judge thinks that they have made all their lives. Where these judges come up with these figures, they all need psychological evaluations, I think.
Absolutely. So, and that's the other thing. We can say this is fraud upon the court. They're not using accurate calculations. But first of all, these judges are corporations, and then men and women are going in, giving them the authority for these corporations to rule over them, their finances, their offspring. And it really is unconstitutional. So I see more of my heart goes out to the parents that want to be involved and that are really trying, and that the state just keeps
Mhm,
pounding and pounding and pounding. The parents that don't want to be involved and, excuse me, take from the state, I can't even wrap my brain around that one. My heart is with the ones that really are trying. And when we go into these fictitious courts, we're giving them authority to rule over. They're not even following their own rules of the court. They're using false calculations. Then it's like
mhm,
treason. You better pay me to see your son or daughter, or I'm going to throw you in jail. How
mhm.
is this happening in, oh, it's happening in the United States of the corporation, not it's, but unfortunately, this is the United States of America. It's crazy.
Right, it's not this is not America anymore.
No. So where do we
Um,
go from here? Like, what are your thoughts around this? Like, what do we do? Do we all move to an island? Do we? I don't even know what to do anymore.
I've heard that Norway is a happy country. I've been studying countries that are happy, if there is such a thing. Now, yeah, I don't know everything, but For instance, Great Britain, they do not put a parent in jail for not being able to make their child support payments.
Nice.
Um, because, there are parents that think, well, if they're not making their child support payments, they should go to jail. If they're truly even a nasty parent, not following judge's orders for visitation and they withhold the child, they should be sent to jail. I still say no. I don't think a parent should be sent to jail because of what that does internally to the child. I mean, even though a parent is not following the judge's order and withholding that child, I think they should be financially fined. Then someone said, well, they're very wealthy. They could care less what they're fined. Well, you can fine them. That judge can fine them to a point where it actually hurts their pocketbook. I don't want to hear it.
And,
But
sorry, Marianne, didn't
no,
mean
you
to.
go ahead. Go ahead.
And that's unfortunate with this type of domestic violence, withholding a son or
Mm-hmm.
daughter, or refusing to help financially just because you want to gain control, or exhibit cohesive control. There are that is an intentional infliction to cause harm. That's
Mm-hmm.
emotional distress, and in these courts, that would be in civil, where there is fair due process of law, so to say. The remedy is monetary. So if more and more, but then the other thing is, if one parent's filing a civil suit against the other parent, I get it if they're really abused. But again, what's that saying to the son or daughter? It's more division, I think. It's
Mm-hmm.
damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Right. Technically, the parent should not be telling the child anything that goes on in this courtroom, but they do. I've seen it with my own eyes. Two psychologists that allowed the father to bring in court orders to read to the child in therapy sessions.
Wow.
Yes, these individuals were reported multiple times. Did that do anything for anybody else? I hope so. I hope it helped the next parent coming down the line with this psychologist, but that only increased that child's anxiety and depression, and they didn't care. So I don't, you know, um, I guess the answer. I have two answers possibly. I don't know what you think of them. I would like to see family court abolished. I think the
Yeah.
way we could do that is the other part is that if parents go in there and represent themselves and just don't use family law attorneys.
Absolutely. Family law attorneys are the biggest crooks on the face of this planet. I've only met one that was an
Mhm,
honorable Tim McKinney in San Diego.
mm,
Other than that, they will take everything from you. And by the way, these are fictitious hearings anyway. Um,
mhm,
Men and women definitely need to stand up and assert their authority, because we have more authority as men and women than these crazy, insane state fake actors that hide under corporations.
mhm.
Family
Yeah,
court
these
does need to be abolished, and so does CPS.
thank you. Yes, I was going to bring that up as well because these are illegitimate courtrooms. There is no see, I think, all of this stuff started in civil court. If you had a child support issue, you went to civil court,
Mm.
and that was back in probably the early '60s. And then family court evolved, I believe it was, and I could be wrong, I think it was 1968 that it was installed by Congress and no one knew it. We just didn't know it. It just suddenly appeared. Family court just appeared out of nowhere. That's what I mean. Correct me if I'm wrong. If there's anyone out there that knows the real date, I'm pretty sure I remember that date. But now we've got these rogue judges where there are no tamper-proof mics. There's no video to watch their behaviors that are absolutely bizarre. How they treat mothers and fathers in these courtrooms.
It's appalling because, again, administrative courts of commerce, fake judges, they're
Mm,
not drug tested.
thank
They
you.
practice law from the bench. If they'll give their opinions, they'll lead the witnesses, the attorneys to fit their agenda. It is one big circus playing with
Mhm.
people's lives, and if people only knew family court, it shouldn't be called court.
No, no, it should be called maybe a three-ring circus.
Family racketeering, family division. I don't know, but if more and more people wake up and stay out of these courts and seriously try to get a remedy like arbitration or even mediation's kind of a joke, like if through the FRC or the court appointed mediation, seek someone with empathy and compassion. The courts will create division and they'll take all your money and not offer remedy, and by the time you're done, then you're going to have to use all your energy to heal your son or daughter because
And
they're going to be screwed up.
right, and they're not the same person you're going to get back. So I found.
uh,
Um, it's as you said, these judges should be drug tested. I've said this as well. I think they should be drug tested with a psychological eval, probably maybe every year or every other year, but some of them have illnesses that they do not disclose, like, for instance, cancer. Like, there was that movie, The Judge. I don't know if you saw the movie The Judge, with Robert Duvall and Robert Downey Jr. in it. It was excellent. I didn't want to see it because it was called The Judge. Okay. And I
right.
told my husband, I'm not watching that movie. It says judge. I'm not, after what I had been through, I don't want to look at it. But he said, it's a really good movie. You got to watch it. And here, I don't want to ruin the plot, but it really is worth watching.
I will watch it.
Um, but my judge really should have been drug tested because he was running it like a three-ring circus. And I think parents need to know that these judges will bounce around from one topic to the next. It's like, wait a minute, we're here to talk about child custody. Why are we talking about child support? That's not
Right.
your job to talk about child. Now we're talking about, say, constructive trust. That's not what we're talking about. He would just go all over the place.
Cocaine. My first
You
thought,
know,
I'm
that
sorry. They're not
Mhm.
right in the head mentally. They're
No,
all out on the golf course drinking. They're probably the shadiest people ever because they feel that they can get away with it, these judges and attorneys. Again, they look at the common folk as peasants. They laugh at us when we go in there like thinking we have rights.
no. Yeah, exactly. And what I didn't know is that, after our court session was finished, the opposing attorney would leave through some side door. Because, like how in a courtroom everything's all wood paneled,
Mhm.
right? So there's this door that I guess there was a doorknob there. I didn't really notice it, but he left through there. And I said to my attorney at the time when I had one, I said, why'd he go there? And she said, oh, that leads right to the club. There's a
Wow,
corridor and it takes them right to their club. I'm like, okay, that's it. So he's going there to probably have lunch and a drink.
that's
And then they're
crazy.
they're all going to get together and laugh about how this turned out.
Uh,
Yes. And see, and like you said, mediation is a joke. What we're not hearing about is parents that are mediating just within themselves.
mhm, mhm.
I would like to have more parents come forward and say, hey, we discussed this ourselves. Of course, the marriage didn't work, but we talked it out and we figured out a plan of who's going to get the kids on which days. And we all work together, even with the grandparents. It can be done.
It absolutely can be done even through after this travesty. I was an alienated mom for 1,038 days. I went through crazy, insane court battles and calling out city attorneys and state officials for almost 4 years. And my daughter's home now for a year, and her dad and I've decided no more courts. And we are co-parenting, though she's in my care full time. But I encourage now, like those people that cause so much harm, no, have a relationship with them, honey, as long as it's healthy for you, but always have healthy boundaries. Never forget what happened, but you're a child and just be a baby, be 16. So it's
Mhm.
possible.
Mhm. Mhm. In fact, I did an interview with Jim and Julie last summer. It was not this past summer, but this year before, and they both talked about their co-parenting situations because they both had remarried after they married each other after their divorces, but they were able to co-parent beautifully. In fact, at the daughter's graduation, my husband and I were sitting at a picnic table, and we saw Julie's husband playing that, game where you throw the the little, bean bag into the what is that
Yeah,
called?
cornhole.
But he was playing that game with her ex-husband.
Awesome. That's
And
great.
I said to my husband, I said, "Look at that. Am I, like, seeing things? This
That's
is it can
awesome.
be done." And they were
Yeah.
civil and laughing and joking around. So, these are the rare people that I think are emotionally healthy.
Yes.
I don't I also think there's issues with okay, you could be co-parenting okay, after a divorce. Somebody goes and remarries somebody who starts chirping in their ear about this could be done a certain way. And
Mhm.
then you find yourselves going into family court. And I don't know what you think of this, but I think when you divorce, it's almost like a prenup. Why not set boundaries saying that we're going to co-parent the two of us, and under no circumstances does a third party become involved,
Mm.
especially one that works in a courthouse. So this is the scary part. There's a lot of experienced people with this family court system, and if they meet your ex, they can have a lot of input. And if things are working great, just leave it alone.
Absolutely. There's a few cases and a few of my friends that especially one that's a father's he's a father's rights advocate, but he was railroaded and his ex-wife literally was coerced by the team of attorneys, her doctor friend. She was advised, to basically railroad him, and that's what she did, and he's still 4 years in now at the alienation, so and he always says, "It's not Beth." It Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to say that,
Oh,
but I did.
that's a we
I
don't know
did.
who that is anyway.
Okay. But basically, she has been brainwashed by all these people, and
Mhm,
even my ex too. My ex, collaborated with the San Diego city attorney, and she was advising him what to do and protective orders. Craziness. These people are. I always say the narcissistic parent or the NP or the unhealthy parent is like a child in an adult's body, and they
mhm.
really can't think for themselves. They're easily manipulated. So,
Well, yeah, this is true. What the part I couldn't understand was, like, my ex's parents who always thought highly of me. His mother always praised me, I had all my kids potty trained before the age of 2,
mhm.
and she always said, "Oh, you're such a good mother, this and that," and then suddenly, she's out for blood with
Mm,
him, and these people can turn on you. You know, um, People have got to have the strength to tell that third party that they have now fallen in love with, "Just stay out of it. This is between, you know, the ex and myself. Just we're gonna leave things be." I don't need to be the thing is you don't need to be going and putting a retainer fee down on an attorney that is just gonna
gosh,
run you ragged.
absolutely. I literally, when people tell me they're hiring, they're gonna get an attorney, I'm just like, please, we have people that can coach you to
Mhm,
represent yourself sui juris or pro se. The only type of attorney that I would ever retain is for like a civil rights matter on a
mhm.
severe level, and that's it.
Right, right.
Mhm.
And even those attorneys don't want to defend you or work with you either, I've found. I was running a federal case and I ended up doing that myself because there was no one that wanted to take the case. Like, don't you guys want to work? I mean, don't you guys want money? Because I mean, there was a lot of merit to this case. This case could have been won. But again, parents, what they don't understand as well is there's collusion. The attorney is BFFs with the judge.
Mhm.
And this happens to a lot of cases from what I'm seeing as of recent that people are coming forward telling me this stuff.
Yeah, it's really more and more out of hand. I mean, there's so many stories. There's a case in LA where the one head attorney, he collaborates with, like, the biker gangs,
Mhm.
and the one attorney was a civil rights attorney helping my friend. He was murdered. And it's all covered up, and this other attorney's still practicing. I mean, it's all crazy and dark. But even the guy Cole Stewart in San Diego, he formed California Families for Children, California
Mhm.
Families, something like that. Like in 2013, 14, he was suing the San Diego bar and San Diego Family Court, and he is dead. I mean, and I talked to one of the advocates I met in DC that used to advocate with him, and she said, yeah, it was very suspicious, the circumstances.
Mhm. Yeah, I think I heard about that one as well.
Dangerous. It's dangerous. So they all know one another. They all cover up for one another. I truly feel the only way to try to seek remedy now, and I'm learning to with a team of people, we're all trying to learn to connect the dots, is they don't want their finances affected. So
Mhm.
these judges have articles of incorporation under a corporate entity name. With that, they have a registered agent, so they're insured. If we can figure out how to file claim and dings against these insurances for GALs, judges, I don't even like calling them judges,
Mhm.
and because they all have indemnity insurance, then maybe we can start making headway, keeping people out of family court. If you have to go to court, represent yourself as a man or woman, and then file claim against the insurances. That's all I can think of at this point.
It's funny you should mention that because I've looked into this insurance and their indemnity insurance. It's hard to find out what insurance is representing them, and then they won't tell you.
Right. And we've gotten as far
Yeah.
as connecting the dots. Okay. I found my judges, Daniel Belsky, when he incorporated himself in 1992. And then he filed the dissolution in 2021 when things were getting really hot for him. So for 40 years, he was practicing law from the bench and making biased rulings.
Mhm.
Um, he thank God he's not my judge, but I'm like, if he still was, I would really be pressing the issue how to find that insurance. But
Mhm.
if you can find the articles of incorporation, the registered agent, you can somehow track it. And if anyone knows how to fully execute this, I'm all ears, and we're dying to know.
Mhm. Mhm. Myself as well as a bunch of other parents. This can be done. Um, and now I had mentioned earlier that everyone should just go pro se, but a lot of people emotionally cannot do it. This is what and this is where you do need a coach to say this can be done. You can go in there, be prepared for a lot of verbal and emotional abuse. I
Hmm.
mean, if you've went through how many years of marriage with verbal and emotional abuse, just it's going to be the same thing in a courtroom. As horrible as that sounds.
Yes, like, my people told me you have to remove emotion, and that's so hard for. I'm a mom, and we're all moms. We're in this courtroom, and they're saying crazy things. But
Mhm.
when he said you have to separate yourself because they're all acting, there's a performance bond, bid bond, payout bond. They're all
Mhm.
acting. Try to be calm like Jesus. Look at yourself as a third party.
Mhm.
there's and no, we can't do it alone. I wouldn't suggest a parent if they're gonna represent themselves. I get an army of people, team of people that you trust. There's a lot of good coaching pro se groups that we can connect you with. Any, the pro se dads. There's UPC pro se. Um,
Mhm.
there's quite a few, but don't do it alone.
Right, and parents also have to watch out for some of these advocates charging an exorbitant amount of money to, again, do nothing. This is
Right.
also very sad because at this point, when you go pro se, there's no more money, you know?
Right.
And, I mean, I give my opinions away for free. I mean, I'm not an attorney, but I can tell you what this is what I would do next. This is all a chess game. This is all it is.
Right. And I would suggest to a parent if stay clear of the advocates too, like that are charging money, because if say if you're coaching a parent and they want to make a donation, a small donation,
Mhm.
that's fine. But
Right.
we're all in this together and iron sharpens iron, so
Mhm.
we all need to be supporting one another and not it's not about money. It's about just a team and support, and it's us against them
Mm,
essentially. So stay
mhm.
clear of advocates charging money, I feel.
Right. And there are some good ones that are charging money and do follow through, but
Mhm,
I don't know how you have to sift that through. You've gotta vet super well who you're talking to.
mhm. Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah,
But,
it's
I'm willing to share my content, motions, anything, but I feel it's up
mhm,
to them, the parent, like, we can't do the work for them. They really have to go on their research hunt and get a team or at least 1 or 2 mentors, and they've got to be very proactive.
mhm,
You can't get an advocate and expect them to do everything. I've encountered that, and it's hard and it's heartbreaking as you want to help so many people, but you can't do it. We're not
mm-mm,
attorneys.
right. Because I was helping this guy, it's about maybe 2 or 3 years ago, he was in the Midwest, and he said, "Well, what should I do?" And I said, "Well, file this motion." I said, "But I don't know what that state's law is." And then I read somewhere that, when these, we'll say, appellate judges or whatever, they don't wanna sit around and read your case law. They already know the case law that you're explaining. They just want you to put in your brief what you're saying on a human to human level and not just sit around and quote case law.
Mhm.
But then the other side to that is, they're not taking you seriously.
Right.
So then you have to throw some obviously put case law in there because that's what you have in your whole brief of your, can't even think it's too early in the morning, your introduction and all that. But it's just sad that a person goes in there as a pro se litigant and they're not taken seriously and they're treated stupid and by these actors that are they've already decided your case before you've gone in there.
Yes. Yes. And here's the other thing. When as a pro se or sui juris litigant, you're standing more, especially sui juris, more on the Bill of Rights, and you can invoke common law. So why would they want you in their administrative commerce court? So that they get upset. They will laugh, especially if one vacillates between legal and lawful.
Mhm,
Um, yeah, it's one big mockery, but I have seen some amazing pro se litigants.
mhm,
Mark Fiddleman, holy cow, he holds his own, and the judge takes him seriously. And he had a team of people, and he was coached. I don't know the guy's name, but he did say he was coached. Um, so there are some really good pro se litigants out there that
mhm.
won't take any shit, shall I say?
Right, right. Well, I mean, I didn't either. When I was in there, I was all business, and I showed no emotion. Even when I had attorneys, I just didn't show emotion because they tell you to be poker face.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
then what I would hear from my kids is, "Well, mom, you're not crying." It's like, I didn't know how to answer that. And, one of my friends had said to me, "Wow, you got a little wild in court today." And it's like, "Well, what do you mean by that?" And she says, "Well, you knew what you were talking about and they didn't like it,"
Love it.
you know?
Right. Right.
And that's where, they're calling parents mentally ill. That's the first thing they do, is call everybody mentally ill. It seems like that's the first thing they do.
I'm sorry. A call came in and I lost.
Ill, you lo
Right. I'm sorry about that. A call came in and I lost. I did not hear what you said. My
Okay.
apologies.
Oh, that's okay. I could tell a call was coming in. Yeah, the first thing they do is call a parent mentally ill. I don't know
Mhm.
why they do this, but it's a common tactic.
It's false. It's false. If anything, they're mentally ill, and they'll again. I have been told that attorneys and judges can call a parent mentally ill by again vacillating between legal and lawful, or thinking that you have constitutional rights. They're gonna be like, you have no idea what you're talking about. You're incompetent. You can't stand for yourself. So there's something wrong with you. So
Mhm,
it's
mhm,
all it's all lies.
mhm. Well, and that's the thing I always tell if I hear, like, I was talking with 2 friends and they were saying, "Yeah, this couple, they're splitting up and they've got these young kids," and I said, "Tell them to stay away from family court, to stay away." Well,
Right.
she said something that, well, who would do that, like, get divorced with little kids? Sometimes you have to,
Mhm.
sometimes you don't have a choice. I did. I mean, that's what I did. I didn't have a choice, I had to. But, you know, uh, I said, "You gotta talk to these people." And she kind of alluded that she wasn't gonna talk to these people, it's their business.
Wow.
But I said but then I interjected, I said, "Once you get the government in your home, you can't get them out."
Right. Is she gonna talk to them?
Well, I'll talk to them. I'm gonna
Mhm.
offer her to at least have these people at least reach out to me, and hopefully they will. But that's all we can do to help each other. People they're naive, they don't know what they're walking into.
Absolutely. And here's the thing, that the courts will see these small babies or these toddlers as, they can start charging their surety
Mhm.
or CUSIP number for the next 15 years. So
Mhm.
that's a lot of money. So
Mhm.
yeah, anybody that we can keep out of family court, juvenile court, make awareness on false allegations, even people making false allegations to CPS,
Yes.
all of this evilness. We just have to speak up, which you're doing clearly.
Oh, well, thank you. But,
Yeah.
like, with the false allegations, um, I was always told that CPS would not get involved if someone called in a false allegation when there was, custody hearings going on. I've heard that. I don't know if that varies from state to state, but, technically in this state, they're not supposed to, but they did anyway,
Mm-hmm.
and
Hmm.
that helped the opposing side. Even though, I mean, I was cleared, but they didn't care. See, this is what's happening is that CPS has gotten so big and powerful that whatever they say, I mean, they're sitting right next to the judge listens to them
Hmm.
explicitly. They take their word for God, and they're not dissecting the case and doing their work.
Not at all. The reports are inaccurate. The social workers are incompetent. And they're again, it's just like the judges where they'll use their opinions for these to falsify reports, and the judge takes their word at face value. And again, these state agents under the political subdivisions, they don't have a lawful authority. They're doing investigations on hearsay allegations.
Mhm.
And I have seen they don't care if you're in the middle of any custody dispute. They'll come out and open up a 30-day investigation.
Mhm.
And if they can walk all over that parent, then they're going to have you in court, false reports. But the parents that I've seen as their authorities, they CPS goes away.
They perjure themselves on the stand at will, and, e the ones that I've dealt with were not licensed social workers. These were just inept caseworkers. One did have a child development degree, but obviously she never paid attention to that,
Right.
and I don't know what to say. It's just it's a big three-ring circus.
Hmm. Hmm.
Someone make it stop.
Right.
Oh.
Right. And these people are insured too. Um,
Mhm.
that I know Los Angeles DCFS is out of control, and parents are having sons and daughters trafficked like crazy just to be put up for adoption for more title, what is it, 4E funding.
Mhm.
And the child has a special needs, then the state gets more money. So it's all it is human trafficking again from the Bill Clinton
Mhm.
thing.
Right, and some of these caseworkers are calling a child, say, ADHD or even autistic, and the kid isn't.
No, no, no. And this is again, and this is where we school parents like if there's no proper assessment, there can't be a
Mhm.
proper diagnosis, therefore there can't be a proper treatment plan. So those are APA violations. What is it? 2.01, 3.04, and 9.01. Failure to do proper assessment and all that stuff. Um, these violations have to be filed. Like, even if you think they don't matter, they matter because the more and more people that stand up, and you can even put these on record to hold validity. So, but they're
Mhm.
getting away with it because there's no oversight, and parents are devastated, paralyzed in trauma,
Mhm.
fear. This is why we really have to just support one another, team up.
Definitely, because parents are losing their careers over a false allegation. Even if you're cleared, you still lose your job. You can't get back, or no one will hire you back.
Mm.
And the thing is what these caseworkers are doing, and I'm hearing this from other parents as well, is they're doing one-sided interviews. Now, they're out of control. I don't know how we abolish them, but if someone has a good idea, you know, I'm sure you saw that, last year where the caseworkers were wearing hot pink T-shirts saying "legal kidnappers," and on the back it said, "Do you know where your children are?" And they were
Awful.
all fired. I think it was in the San Diego area, I think, but I could be wrong. I
Yeah,
think
I
it
remember seeing that. That was repulsive. Along with that, there was another video that those social workers were putting out there. I mean, it's blatantly in our faces right
mhm,
now. Um, again, I would suggest if a state agent approaches your family, don't let them in your house unless they
mhm,
have a warrant. But again, just keep repeating, under what lawful authority do you have to do an investigation on hearsay allegations? They don't. They're make the Satan's minions go away by invoking your rights. You do have
mhm,
rights.
mhm. Well, yeah, and a lot of parents, they get advice that, "Well, hey, your house is clean. You got nothing to hide, so, hey, just let them in. They're gonna just look at the fridge. They're gonna, look at the living room. Then they're gonna leave because they're gonna see everything's okay," and they're not doing that.
Mm-mm.
I mean, look at what's happening to poor Megan Walsh.
Right.
Ugh.
There's no, I mean, here's the thing. I saw that when she was forced to give up her 5-day-old baby,
Mm.
and she had the police, and they were telling her, "It's just for a couple hours until we get it under control." I don't think that baby's back in her care to
No.
this day. That's enough to make somebody go ballistic.
Mhm.
Is the baby with John Walsh?
That I have no idea. I have no idea.
that in itself should tell people, if you have America's Most Wanted and he's willing to take his daughter to whatever court and take her offspring because whatever issues he's got, and they're clearly letting him, and there's nothing wrong with Megan. She's a holistic mom. I'm a
Mhm,
holistic mom.
mhm,
Like,
mhm,
there's nothing wrong with that. It's the darkness is right in our faces. John
mhm,
Walsh, people, he's covering up for human trafficking, sex trafficking, all of his little friends that probably meet in the Freemasons' basements that snort coke and drink children's blood after they
mhm,
rape and sodomize them. And I
mhm,
hate to be rude and vulgar like this, but this is real deal stuff of what's happening.
mhm. And, you know, a lot of people didn't know this stuff, and now a lot of people are reporting on it, and it's like everyone's kind of waking up to this, and this needs to happen. We need to talk about this elephant in the room,
Mhm. Right.
and, you know, I would think he would have that baby now that you mentioned. I mean, who else would take it? I mean, foster care? I have no idea. I'm trying to follow that story.
It's wrong and inhumane to separate a baby from its mother. The bonding, the breast milk, no one can love that precious baby like the mother. It's
Mhm.
it's a new level of evil.
This is. You know, and,
My prayers are
uh,
with Megan.
definitely, definitely. Well, you know, I don't wanna keep you all morning, but I'm glad you came on because 'cause I'd like to have you come back on again, and we can talk about another interesting topic we were discussing before we came on air. I don't wanna tell anyone what it is until we do our next podcast. But, is there anything else you would like to add?
Well, thank you for having me, Marianne. The only thing I would just like to add is, to parents is just to really know who you are as a man and woman, and God gave you this unalienable and fundamental right not to be taken away by any type of fake state actor or state intrusion. So find the strength within. There's a lot of resources out there. I've got resources on my website, PAS
Mhm.
Family Advocacy, and I'm willing to share content and really encourage those to represent yourself pro se or sui juris. So that's
Y So should people contact you on your email? Uh,
sure. Lisa at pasfamilyadvocacy.com. And
okay.
if there's lots of resources and links from anywhere from the parental alienation, the intimate partner violence to I've got the maxims of law, Burton's legal
Oh,
thesaurus,
nice.
all sorts of, just links that parents can go on a little research hunt.
Mhm. And I encourage parents to get the Black's Law Dictionary because there's judicial canons in there. There's, you know, terms that
Mhm.
these attorneys use that are like it's almost like double speak. It's kind of really weird. But that will help open your eyes up to even though I know people are under the stress of court, of either criminal court or family court, but just to get this book, you can get it at Amazon. I bought mine for $6,
Mhm.
and it was fascinating just to read the judicial canons. But thank you for
Yeah,
coming on. Hey,
thank you.
don't uh, definitely don't jump off. Slam the Gavel a podcast to help the public understand what really goes on in these family courtrooms. I'm your host, Marianne Petrie, author of Dismantling Family Court Corruption, Why Taking the Kids Was Not Enough, and Cry Out for Justice, Poems of Truth. Please join us again here with Lisa Breece Linke and other exciting guests. Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you. Bye, Marianne.
Bye.